And we're going to talk about my Uncanny X-Force Spiral. I haven't been really looking around. I mean, I don't really do that a whole lot as far as customs. I know people have made customs of Spiral and customs of Uncanny X-Force Spiral, but I don't think I've seen anyone use the current, most recent, like official buck from Hasbro, like the actual retro carded Spiral, and convert it into X-Force Spiral. If someone else has, great, but I kind of feel like I might be the first one. It's been like a year or so. This came out earlier this year, I think. Maybe, I don't know, but I've definitely seen Google images of people with their Uncanny X-Force Spiral, but it wasn't this buck. And again, it's the very most recent official Spiral from Marvel Legends is what I'm using, but there are some small differences here, so we're going to go over that shortly. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you are interested in more content like this. We're going to talk about this very quickly because it really wasn't a super complex change or build. This is indeed, again, the full-on buck of the whole Spiral, but I'll bring her out shortly for a little bit more of a on-screen comparison. But it is that entire thing, with the few exceptions being, one, I took off accessories and stuff like that, but the real big change was just the head. So on that Spiral, it has the helmet and all of that. I was planning on using that original head sculpt and just grafting on whatever hair I could find. Unfortunately for me, is that head sculpt with the helmet, it kind of nerfs her head. It's actually half of a head. She doesn't have a forehead. She doesn't have ears. It's like if you try to put on different hair, there's going to be a big gap. So I was going to hope to at least fill in that gap, because actually I didn't want to paint her face flesh tone at all. That was the original thing, but because of there were going to be a big gap on her forehead with that original head sculpt. Actually, do I have it right here? I do, yeah. Here you go. So I took it all off, but yeah, that's as much a forehead as you're going to get out of Spiral. So it's not enough for a whole custom. Not for a whole head of hair, at least. So I decided to switch that up, and now do I have the head available? I'm sure I do. Got plenty of them. I switched it up to this. So this is the Shikla head, and that is what is on this Spiral here, because I have a billion of them, so I gotta find some kind of use for Shikla. So there's that. And two, the hair is from retro carded Storm, so any old regular Storm, and it's not her exact styling of hair during that run of the X-Force comics. And I was a little tempted to like modify this to give her a little bit more of her hairstyling, but at the same time I'm like, it's fine. It's not worth all of that. I think this is fine. It's fine enough for me. So that's the biggest change. It's a completely different head sculpt and hair. Because like I said, this is got no forehead. I really wanted to keep the flesh tone the way it was, so I didn't have to worry about paint rub and stuff like that. But it is what it is. Also, it didn't matter because the other big change is right there. Those right there. This part, her chest. So her, she would have what we call in the industry a boob window. So I had to give it to her. I'm using the exact same buck as this. So the modifications, we dremeled off all of these little yellow beads there, and then I took a Dremel and dremeled down in between, like where her shirt or bodysuit is, and dremeled that detail out, and then took epoxy sculpt to add. So she's a little bit bigger, a little bit bustier, but also has cleavage, and that's the whole point of the window. So she has the cleavage, and I had to paint that. So there's no way around that. So painting her face was a requirement, painting her boob window requirement. So I had to paint the rest of her arms too. So it didn't match the color that I really wanted, but it's an acceptable color for me for Spiral for this project. And I just moved on. Other than that, the only real issues, the only real differences here, obviously the paint colors, and I had to paint all of that. Just a word of the wise, I did try to do some experimenting with, and I've been doing that lately with my customs, experimenting with knees, and in particular the pinless ones, the pinless knees and the pinless elbows, and how to approach that issue. Long story short, I did not do very well with this one in particular. You can see a lot of nastiness in the like the elbows area, and how that paint came out. So what I ended up doing was not removing any of it, just leaving it as is, and then taking the Dremel and trying to Dremel down all of those elbow joints and the knee joints and stuff like that without removing anything, just trying to sand it down as best as I could. And it didn't work out very well. This is probably like the second to third time that I've tried this, and I'm not liking the results. So going forward, I will try a different method. Again, I'm very much experimenting with pinless arms and pinless legs, trying to find the best way to go about doing it. I know some people do Rit dye, and they dye their figures. That's just not how I roll, but I do have other strategies in mind, and hopefully we'll get this problem tackled. But with that being said, you can see on the original she has these arm bracers and stuff like that. I did Dremel those off on mine the best I could. It didn't look great, but the black kind of covers up any of the blemishes there. And then everything else is just tried to be as detailed as possible. The hair on her legs is the same as the original, and not at all modified or painted whatsoever. Has the exact same shoes. She's supposed to have heels. I tried working out heels on her, different versions of heels. The issue is the pin in her foot or her leg is a very awkward and unique to her sort of thing, and the shoes and the heels that I tried on her didn't go deep enough in the hole inside the actual heels to place it in there, to place the peg in there wasn't deep enough to compensate for what she has on her leg. So I just used the exact same original shoes that are on there and just painted them black. So she does not have heels. And the only other thing worth mentioning is if you were to use this exact same buck, which you don't have to, but if you use everything including the legs, since this one, the original Spiral, get that going over here, since this one is all plastic color, you don't have to worry about it, but there's actually a lot of plastic rubbing, like when you between the hips and the butt and this torso, all of that touches and it rubs quite strongly. So if you were to leave it as is and paint it, you're going to have paint rub all in there and it's going to get messed up. So I actually had to Dremel down the hip part, like the part that connects to the torso, basically the interior booty, if you understand what I'm saying. But I had to Dremel that down and make it smaller, so that way when it's on here, I can actually lift her leg and it not be touching back there, and like just to have enough space here so that it's not touching the back of her lower torso or the inside of her groin area, basically. That had to be small, like considerably smaller, just so that it doesn't have any touching parts, and then you can paint it comfortably. I did add like a little bit of sculpt here, detail on the belt. There is some detail on the actual original version on her lower torso that I neglected to put on purpose. I did not want to have all of those details on my figure because I just thought that it wasn't worth it and it wasn't going to be the most visual thing there once it's painted all black. But I did put that little belt part in there, so that detail is there. And yeah, that's about it. And you know, all this is here. The hair is fully painted and so on. Not a whole lot to write home about, but at the same time, it did take a little bit of time to get this together. These little arms pieces here on both sides, I did repaint them, but I decided not to Dremel them off just because it wouldn't look all that nice if I did. And this metal arm is completely untouched. I didn't do anything to that whatsoever. I just left it as is. And that's about it. So yeah, and she also has lastly these little shoulder pieces here. There, if you pull that off, it's super easy. You can just pull it right off. There's holes in her shoulder, so I ended up having to fill those holes with sculpt on each side of her shoulder, and that's it. Basic colors, again, the flesh tone, red lipstick, white eyes, silver hair, and light gray and black. It's not very complicated. It did take a little while to paint, but it wasn't super complicated painting it and getting everything prepared. So that'll do it, though. I don't have any I should have grabbed the X-Force Deadpool and all of them. I did not, and I just can't do it right now. Sorry. So no other comparisons to make other than these two. But let me know what you think of Spiral, X-Force Spiral. I'm glad to have it. I was kind of waiting and hoping that Hasbro would make one. It's still a chance because it's really hasn't been that long since this retro carded one came out. But I'm impatient, and of course, you know, like most things, I'm probably not going to like the way Hasbro does it. But you never know. I do like the way they did this Spiral, so that's why I ended up using that same body mold. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you like my Spiral? Do you think it's terrible? Do you wish I messed with her hair and made it more perfect? Do you wish that I used a different body mold and better legs, or painted her some kind of different way, added more, you know, whatever you got to say, just go ahead and throw it down there. And yeah, I don't have any other X-Force related customs on the way, but I will have more Marvel ladies. I think I'm kind of done with the X ladies for a small amount of time. Of course, it's going to always be X-Men ladies being made like pretty much regularly around here, but I am taking a break from the X ladies and going back to more Marvel ladies very soon. And like I said, I'm actually making DC someone lady soon, and some Pokemon girls very soon. So make sure you're sticking around for that, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.